To be honest, when I was a kid, I was genuinely terrified of the future. Not because of college or taxes or having to leave my mom, but because I knew I couldn't be watching the funny anime shows that my kid self liked. Whether it was a regular show, Adventure Time, or anything else you can name, because who in their right mind is going to be 50 years old trying to find out the next plot twist on Gravity Falls or something? Then a 13-year-old me discovered something new. A new genre called adult animation. So as the title suggests, your boy likes adult animation a lot, with its involvement of both relatable and realistic characters and funny ass humor. And today we're going to be going over some popular ones, and not just the impact on me, but many other people as well. Firstly, we got the funniest show on here, The Boondocks. Going on adventures with Granddad, Huey, and Riley was peak fiction back in the day. Plus this show has birthed so many memes and audios you can still hear all over social media. Not to mention, their comedic spin on serious cultural moments can be considered a breath of fresh air in situations that made you lock in for a second. But besides the entertainment it provides for the average viewer, we gotta talk about its educational effects. An episode that really embodies this is Season 1 Episode 9, Return of the King. In this episode, MLK isn't actually gunned down but put in a coma and wakes up 30 years later. And for someone as influential as MLK, you'd assume people be rushing bro as a celebrity because he really is. But it turns out no one actually gives a fuck. So MLK wakes up to black people actually regressing as a race, with us only being known for the wrong reasons. Whether it's promiscuous acts, niggas being trash or rapping, or the fact that white women have to clutch their purse whenever we walk the street across from them. And after seeing the turnout of his I Have a Dream speech, MLK is extremely disappointed with his people, to the point he doesn't even want to be an activist anymore. After the Boondocks' traditional comedy and plot, MLK gives a speech about how black people need to climb out of this pitfall. But a normal faction, nobody gives a fuck, which really solidifies the saying niggas will be niggas, to be honest. Now, despite the crazy plot of this episode really covers some real shit, as when black people were finally given the similar respect and opportunity to really become something, a lot of them just took that chance for granted. When MLK thinking we rise up to be the new doctors and lawyers, which we now are of course, there are a ton of us stuck in the street life, incarcerated, or just dead due to petty conflicts. So maybe MLK's reaction in the show might not be so far-fetched after all from how he really reacts. Another show we gotta talk about is my favorite adult animation of all time, BoJack Horseman. Now I know this show has the negative labels of being depressing or nihilistic, but if you really have experienced life, then the only label this show will have to you is being extremely real. Now for some context, we follow this talking horse known as BoJack Horseman, a celebrity actor who, despite looks as though he's living a perfect life from the outside in, has a lot of problems. To be honest, we need a big emphasis on a lot part if we're being for real. But the show's bravery to display how flawed not just BoJack is, but the people around him are, really gives us the reason as to why this show's a definition of realism and why it's so highly rated. A notable episode that really gives us a deep dive into the thoughts of BoJack and how fucked up he is Season 6 Episode 9's It's Not My Fault. Alright, look, I know that's quite a jump of seasons as that's quite literally the last season of the show, but this episode is very reflective of him. Also, to really go over BoJack would require a separate and much longer video that I have no intention of doing. Unless y'all want it, of course. Anyway, in this episode we catch up to BoJack currently in rehab and doing better for himself. But with this newfound soberness comes the real thoughts that keep tearing at him. With BoJack taking a deep self-reflection of himself and realizing just how many people he's hurt. Whether it's him constantly playing with the emotions of his agent Princess Carolyn, or him throwing the baby doll his mother with dementia thought was a real one off the roof. Quick side note, but I know that he sounds like a really bad person from everything that I've just described to you, but trust me, his redemption is what makes the show worth it, so please watch it. But anyways, through him recapping his previous mistakes and mishaps, he realizes that the common theme in all his problems is his lack of accountability towards them, with him never truly accepting the responsibility of having to fix his issues and just trying to use them as a way to keep his nihilistic way of thinking, believing that he's only an asshole and a piece of shit, and that's just how things go for him. And BoJack's ability to be able to finally grasp this truth after so many years is probably my favorite part of the show, because as someone that has and still does fuck up a lot, being able to finally gain accountability for after all that I did was by far my biggest accomplishment. Lastly, what's an adult animation video without mentioning Rick and Morty, as a show that basically introduced me to adult animation for real, with both its humor and exploration of serious themes, while maintaining a genre of science fiction. You can't really think of adult animation without Rick and Morty at the forefront. But enough glazing though. Anyway, remember how I mentioned that they explore some really serious topics throughout the show? Well, Rick Sanchez happens to be the one who falls under most of these darker topics, with Rick being a very self-destructive yet brilliant character, whose duality at face run doesn't mean much, but after some analysis you begin to realize what the show is actually telling us. Now I can't really say that one episode show all this because some of the episodes are really just for jokes, but I'll give a bit of a summary. So in Rick and Morty there's an infinite number of universes, and each one Rick the smartest being in that universe. And our Rick from Universe C-137 was a Rick who broke that repetition of being obsessed with science but rather wanted to be with his family, until evil Rick, or Rick Prime, decided that that wasn't cool and blew up his house and killed his wife. This leads Rick down a very dark road of both hunting down Rick Prime but also self-destruction involving drugs, women, and all the rest of the bad stuff your parents tell you not to do. Eventually, Rick decides to settle down and move back in with his daughter, which gives us the show Rick and Morty. Now, granted that Rick is now older and a bit more mature, instead of indulging in as much stuff he used to do, well, Rick is just giving into nihilism, with him not taking anything serious anymore as nothing really matters. Now, Rick continues to take on most of the challenges and obstacles in the show with this type of mindset until season 7, where he finally tracks down Rick Prime and kills him. And you think that Rick would have some type of relief or vindication, and he does, but only for a little bit. As Rick then realizes that his obsession over this one guy has fucked his entire life up, launching him deeper into that feeling of nihilism. Now, am I saying that nihilism is an attitude we all must have? Fuck no. But that realization that our means sometimes doesn't justify the end is something that most of us will have to go through. And that just proves why Rick is just another character that we'll all love. Now, with our first honorable mention, we gotta talk about a show I've mentioned in another video, but Invincible. This show really defies the common superhero tropes of other shows and reminds us that despite the fact they have powers, they still go through average things other people go through as well. Starting off with our main character Mark Grayson, aka Invincible. Bro guys expires extremely late and consider himself a failure, with his dad being the Superman of their world, being known as Omni-Man. After getting his powers, he realizes this superhero stuff actually affects his life in ways he didn't expect. As in other superhero shows, it seems as though our main character has their life completely put together and can manage everything. But in Invincible's case, the realism of the fact that a superhero life may not be for everyone is a theme constantly proven throughout the show. Mark's grades drops, he becomes worse and worse as a boyfriend, and the consequence of choosing his superhero life over everything keeps bouncing back on him a lot, which creates this type of irony in the show because for someone named Invincible, he really is the opposite. And let's not forget how much he gets his ass beat in the show, whether it's the Space Tigers or the villains on Earth. Not to mention his dad, who he thought was the hero, is actually here to control and terraform the Earth under his home planet's orders. So yeah, our guy is going through a lot. So our final honorable mention, we got an underrated show that aired back in 1999 on MTV called MTV's Downtown. And this show is an all-time favorite for me and what I tend to binge quite often. Sadly, this show only aired for 13 episodes with no season 2, but the impact it had was major. So we're taken into the heart of New York City with our main character Alex as he just bought himself a new rundown apartment. We get to go on adventures with him and his friend group as they begin to grapple with life as adults in the streets in New York City. Each character is so distinct and realistic that you feel as though you're part of the group traveling around with them. As my personal favorite part of this show is exploring how each character just has to get it as they get it, each one having their own ups and downs but still just having fun at the end of the day. And this had quite the impact on me in my real life, as where even though life can seem pretty ass, and it really is all the time, we just all doing what we can to stay afloat in our own little worlds for real. The visuals this show also creates is almost lucid, as the art style helps in imagining what living in the city would really feel like. Plus, they gathered these voice actors off the street, so they aren't trained professionals, they just people living their everyday lives, some even voicing who they really are in real life, which brings a whole new level of authenticity to the show. By the way, I can genuinely say I want to live in New York because of them. Also, this is the perfect show to watch when you're high, so yeah, just a little side note. Anyway, I guess that's wraps for the vid for real. Thank y'all so much for the support. My views keep going up and up. We're only a month and a half into this, y'all, so this might be the one that makes me blow up. So shout out to everyone who's been watching up until this. So for real, thank y'all, and I'll catch y'all on the next vid for real.